In the Christmas holidays, one thing that becomes more prominent is the advertising of toys for children. When I was researching this subject, I wanted to focus on the debate of whether the advertising of toys in any way affects how children develop, and whether this is a problem that can be solved. Working with children in my holidays, I get to experience firsthand how children play together, which also means that I'm more exposed to, and perhaps more interested in, children's advertising. It soon became evident that this topic was a more complicated one than I imagined, and any research that I've done is only on the small scale and just adds to the information out there, but it's interesting to look at nonetheless. Isabella D. Cherney found in her The Effects of Stereotyped Toys and Gender on Play Assessment in Children aged 18 to 47 months that boys and girls make gender-typed toy selections by 18 to 20 months, which is quite a surprising fact for me, that they're making decisions based on these toys and gender at such a young age. I interviewed 6 children with these ideas in mind. Obviously this is just a small sample, but I found the answers interesting nonetheless, though by no means can they be representative of every child or even any other child. First, I asked, what is your favourite toy?
My favourite toy is Pirates and Knights.
My favourite toy is How to Train Your Dragon because I love dragons.
I like playing with the PlayStation.
My 3 favourite toys are Meccano, Lego and Lego Duplo. I like Lego because it's very fun to build. You can build it into anything you imagine. Meccano is very good because your imagination just got real. And also, finally, Duplo Lego is very fun because all the action figures come to life into anything you imagine. I don't like any toys I don't have any toys I don't like playing with. I like Lego, I like cuddly toys, and I like art. I mostly like art because I can draw anything that's in my head.
The most fun toys I like to play with are probably stuff like Lego and stuff you can build, like Duplo and stuff.
Finally, with this information in mind, I asked the children what they wanted to be when they grew up, to see how toys could be linked with the aspirations the child will make. For example, one girl's answer was linked with her love of the How to Train Your Dragons franchise, and actually made her want to be a scientist.
When I'm older, I want to be a billionaire.
I want to be a Formula 1 driver because it's very fun driving the car and doing all sorts of good gadgets with it.
When I grow up, I want to be a famous gymnast.
When I grow up, I would like to be a scientist who mixes cells together to make it form a different creature. I want to be this because I love dragons.
All of these answers are not reflective of every child, but they are interesting to look at in terms of what the children like to play with and what they will admit to an adult they like to play with. I also spoke to several parents, and one parent I spoke to said that her children will use any toys regardless of gendered stereotypes. She attributed this to the fact that her children do not watch live TV and so do not see any adverts for toys. She even mentioned that something like the Argos catalogue categorises into girls and boys, but they rarely go into toy shops. As a result of this, her 2 children play with most toys, although she does note a difference, particularly in her son, since starting school this year, where he is around other children who will have been seeing these toy adverts. She emphasised the need to let the children choose what they want to play with, and that they've always gotten the children what they ask for rather than what they think they should have. And importantly, these decisions are made without exposure to the gendered advertisements seen on TV. Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity to interview Let Toys Be Toys, a campaign focused on the gender-neutral advertising of children's toys in big toy shops. Their page, however, states that the stereotypes we see in toy marketing connect with the inequalities we see in adult life. By late primary age, research shows that children already have very clear ideas about the jobs that are suitable for boys and girls, ideas that are very hard to shake later on. Cherney later states that children's play with toys and their toy choices can have long-term consequences for later social and cognitive development. For example, play with feminine toys seems to elicit nurturing, proximity and role play, whereas play with masculine toys tends to foster higher mobility, activity and manipulation play. Cherney also states that the gender associated with toys, objects and/or characters can have significant impact on toy preferences and exploration. Finally, I wanted to get a more professional perspective, and I had the opportunity to interview an experienced educator and leader in childcare. Hi, I'm with Sandra Sard now, who's an early years leader. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. Yes, I'm an early years coordinator. I'm presently teaching in the nursery, and I've been teaching for over 30 years.
Yeah, I just would like to ask you today about if you notice any differences in the way children play based on gender, or if you notice any differences when they come to you in nursery versus when they're finished at the end of the year, or if you get to see them progress through school as well.
Yes, obviously in early years, especially nursery, they're quite young, age 3 when they come to us. So they do have their interests, and we try and build on these in nursery. And some children, of course, get new interests, through the things that we provide. Well, over time, I suppose I've taught many years. Not great changes, really. Children, girls often choose role play. I mean, we're very careful not to be stereotypical, but children, girls will often be in the home corner, although boys will too. But it's an area that I'd find more girls in generally. I'm noticing this year, for instance, our boys are really liking dinosaurs a lot, and that's something that the girls don't really show any interest in. So they go around with making little scenarios in the sand or outside with the dinosaurs in their hands.
Yeah. Do you see it in the toys that they pick, or when you're trying to encourage them to play with certain things, or
yeah,
a certain
we do have a lot of it's a lot of independent choice, obviously in nursery particularly. That age you can't really force children to play with something they don't want with generally. But if you did sit with a group and it was something like Peppa Pig, or I think they'd all be interested in certain things. There's certain little sort of themes that they all sort of accept and are happy to play with toys to do and that. I think if you're joining in, I think it's really important to be a good role model. I mean, as a female, I do try and sit with the boys and I'll sit with girls and do construction, so I'm trying to make sure that as I say, we're not presenting anything stereotypical really.
So another thing I just wanted to ask you is if you notice any differences or the ways in which toys are advertised for children, if you get to see any of that in what you're doing and how that could affect them.
The boys in particular like their superheroes and girls like their princesses.
Yeah.
So that's something that's very evident. Frozen's been a very sort of popular sort of theme that's been going on, obviously
Yeah.
influenced by the film.
I think it's
yeah.
just interesting that Frozen
Yes.
is called Frozen and Tangled was
Yes.
called Tangled. They're not called Rapunzel or the Snow Queen. Maybe does that make boys more likely to lean toward them? Because I think that's what they were trying
Yeah,
to do.
possibly, yes. But it still is the girls really who are singing the songs and
Yeah.
Dressing up, and it does tend to be the girls, the interest there for the girls more so.
Yeah, and the superheroes ones, is that?
Yeah, well, yes, the
Same.
superheroes, of course, they like their Superman and characters, Batman. I think Superman's really quite popular.
Yeah. That
So
may be from the animation.
yes, and toys and things like
Yeah.
that. Obviously, we don't have those toys in nursery,
Yeah.
but sometimes they have a dressing up day, and
Do you have the bring something in day? What's it called? Show
yeah,
and tell
yeah,
kind of thing?
we used to actually. Yes, we've not so much this year because we tend to find the children always bringing the same things in and the same children. So we did do it for a while. Yeah, I mean it's interesting. Also, funny enough, packed lunch cases as well. Girls have got their little favourites, which are often to do with Frozen, and then the boys have got theirs. So packed lunch sort of is quite important. Their little box that they have.
I find the packed lunch boxes for like something like the Avengers is based on the movies which are rated 12
All
rather
right.
than the
Well, we
other
haven't got
things,
any of
so-
those. I think our packed lunch boxes
Yeah.
are quite innocent. So,
No, I know, but
we're okay.
you know the
Yes, yes,
Avengers
absolutely,
is
yes.
a movie that they sometimes would see, but
Yes.
it's 12A,
Not really. It's
so
not
they
really
can
for
see,
their age, no.
which is interesting.
Yes, I think over time there's not been a huge change. I've been teaching for a long time. I think
Yeah,
but it's hard to say really.
And can I ask about stuff like events, or if you do school plays and stuff? Is there?
Well, we in our role play area we decided to turn it into a little stable actually, because as we were learning about the nativity, and we'd had the story several times. We talked about the different parts, Joseph, Mary, different characters in the story, and I did find it was mostly girls in there, that wanted to dress up. One would even be Joseph, much more so than the boys. So they were really happy to be putting on the clothes, dressing up.
What about the angels then?
Yeah, the angels. I mean, we had made it very clear to the children that the angels were Gabriel was actually a boy or a male. So I think there was some understanding there, but not particularly interested really. And I mean, possibly that has something to do with physical skills, because I think girls are better at getting dressed and putting on dressing up clothes at that stage. So possibly boys are a little bit put off. They're not so good at dressing, possibly.
Quite young.
So that could be part of it. But as time evolves, we'll have events actually in the spring term. So again, I will talk to children about equality and. And usually they're quite interested in that, so that's something that they enjoy.
Normally, that's something I find when it's doctors and nurses,
Yes.
and people have like the conception that nurses are women and doctors are men. So even in dressing up, it's a boy is a doctor and a girl
Yes.
is a nurse.
Well, to be honest, I tend not to have the nurses'
Yeah.
clothes at all. I just have white coats, so that sort of simplifies it a bit.
That's good.
And also I do very much say, men can be nurses. We sort of have a little talk about these things. Hopefully they understand, and through playing, they understand more.
Yeah, okay. And do you think that, children could be influenced in any way by what they're watching on TV, either in adverts or in movies like that?
Well, we do have, usually every year you have a few children that do like to make weapons or guns in particular. And, I think that's something that we prefer them not to do. I mean, we don't come down too heavily. We try and sort of say, could you make something better? Or we try and, make the play more constructive, really. But it's rare that, in fact, never really a girl will make a gun. It will be a boy. And then, other boys, soon want to copy what one boy is doing. So, we try and be tactful. I mean, obviously, if it was a case of a child who perhaps witnessed real sort of, fighting, perhaps, as a refugee or something like that, that would be a different matter. But these are children who, have just possibly watched something.
Especially if they're watching their heroes.
Yes, or it could be, games as well.
Yeah.
I think it's not just on television, it's, a lot of the games on iPads and things
maybe if
can
they
be
have
a bit,
older siblings, even if it's not an intentional
absolutely.
thing.
So, yes, I mean, we see more of that now, probably, even than before. So,
yeah, thank you for this today.
You're welcome.
Nice to have you on.
Thank you.
Reasons given for the gendering of toys are often that of nostalgia or tradition, both by marketers and parents or customers. This suggests that the traditions of toys in the past and the marketing of them is the desired way today. People become comfortable by what they are used to or familiar with. However, perhaps this is not the case for the marketers. Alice Robb of the New York Times suggests a more sinister reason, citing consumerist culture and capitalist influences. She attributes shrewd marketers who realized they could convince parents of boys and girls to buy two different versions of the same product. Now, profiting from the advertising of gender-specific toys is shown in things such as Kinder Egg toys or Barbie versus Action Man, and in general the division of toys in shops today. This is ominous as it suggests that profit is the motivator for something that potentially affects children's development and identity. Comparatively, Let Toys Be Toys would argue that the marketers and retailers would actually benefit from no longer having gendered advertising. Their website states, "We are not asking retailers to change the toys they sell, but to organise toys by theme and function rather than gender. There's no need for boys and girls aisles. Take down the pink and blue signs in stores and on packaging, and instead let toys be toys." Their website goes on to state that it's a win-win. We're talking about retailers offering consumers more, not less. Would this mean that retailers would actually profit from this action? It's perhaps too early to tell, but interesting nonetheless. Perhaps it is best to simply remove the influence of gendered advertising, as groups like Let Toys Be Toys are trying to achieve, so that the choices the children are making are less born from expectations, but from themselves.